Hello, my name is Gabriel Meissner, and you are watching rptv News. In today's video, we will be exploring the most recent EED co-chair election meeting. This meeting wasn't just an election, but an opportunity for Daniels Corporation to present through Fatima Saya, who is the manager for social impacts, some of the new economic and employment opportunities available to Regent Park residents. This was met with various questions and queries. Let's get into the video to see what people have to say and to see who gets elected.
Really great to have you, the EED quarterly meeting. It's been a little while since we had this meeting, since November. And I want to share a little bit about why that's been the case. And really what has happened is that there's been some turnover and some changes on the EED leadership. So earlier this year, our resident co-chairs resigned. They had other things going on. And so that really left me, and I didn't introduce myself. My name is Fatima. I'm from the Daniels Corporation. I work on the social impact team. Fatima? Yes. Nice to meet you also. Oh, hi, Elena. Nice to see you in person. Yeah. We had this sort of circumstances where the EED leadership, which historically has been made up of 2 resident co-chairs, as well as myself from the Daniels Corporation, Asal from Tridel, and then also someone from Toronto Community Housing, and our partners at Dixon Hall and Yonge Street Mission. We really wanted to make sure that before we had any meetings, before we made any major decisions on programs, that we did an election for resident co-chairs so that there could be resident co-chairs on the committee. And that's why you're all here today, because what we are doing is actually having an election for resident co-chairs at the end of this meeting. Okay, so that's a main component of the meeting today. Something else that we want to make sure that we're doing is sharing some updates about ongoing projects that the EED has been working on. So we haven't taken any new projects, but ongoing projects. And then I'll share a little bit about another opportunity that is available as well related to employment, and specifically employment in the construction trades. So I'll share that opportunity at the end too. Okay, so the Employment and Economic Development Table, maybe just giving you a quick overview if you don't know who the Employment and Economic Development Table is. So the Employment and Economic Development Table, or the EED, is a subgroup of the Social Development Plan, and we work specifically on initiatives and programs related to creating economic opportunities. So if you change to the next slide, there's 2 really important areas of focus. The first is employment, and the second is entrepreneurship. So those are the 2 areas when we're talking about programs and initiatives that the EED supports. It's programs and initiatives related to employment and entrepreneurship. Okay, so there's 2 current projects that the Employment Economic Development Table is working on. So I'll share a little bit about those kind of in brief, and then we'll hear from the leads of those projects who are community members who are leading those projects, and they'll share really a lot more in depth about where things are at. So the first is the Regent Park Cafe. You might know that there was a cafe on the ground floor of the building for the last 3 months. It was really fantastic, that program we'll have a little bit of an update on from Gail shortly. And then the second is the Workforce Integrator Project, which is another resident-led initiative that had actually received funding from Metcalf Foundation to really create a platform to help community members find employment. So that's another really important program. So what I'm going to do actually now is call up Gail to share updates about the community cafe.
As we looked at employment and economic development, since the goal was to improve entrepreneurial opportunities, that's part of the goal of the EED. So we came up with a 7-step entrepreneurship strategy. I think that's the slide that you have. Yeah, we came up with a 7-step entrepreneurship strategy. So these are all connected. They don't work in silo. The first was a learning series. So we've done 2 kind of cohorts of the learning series. We now have a model that anyone in the community can use. And that's the key, is that whatever you create, that we can scale it, that there's continuity. Else we'll just be creating programs. So the learning series now has its own a database of content. So you can go in and pick any module and do that module. There has been a group of entrepreneurs that have the skill set to run a project. So they've gone through some project management training so they can run a project. They were part of the learning series as part of that steering committee. So they now have that skill set, and they specifically asked for that skill set. And so we have the database of learning. We have that group of project leaders. And then we have a group of mentors. So anyone at any point could say, I need a mentor in terms of I'm starting a business, and those facilities or those resources exist. And they're all community or directly connected to the community. Layla was leading that project, amazing work, and now she is been captured by CCLND, working with them and their programs. So the cafe project, long time in the making, but that's kind of the third step. Well, the second step is really local market, so we kind of did a little bit of that through the Moonlight Market, but we recognize that there are other markets that happen, so why reinvent the wheel? I think that's one of the learnings that came out of that, and how can we use those resources that we have to help the other markets that exist. So the third is the cafe pop-up. So I'm gonna kind of show my computer a little bit, because that's kind of got what I want to talk about on it. But yes, I think a few people have certainly seen the cafe downstairs. We've been doing a little bit of kind of revamping in terms of the visuals, getting some help from some students from the University of Toronto. So, you know, it's not about just coming and selling or having a cafe. It's about how do I build my skills as an entrepreneur. So I just went through a learning series. I learned costing. I learned marketing. How do I now get the practicum to support that? And that's what the cafe's intent is. So it's about building entrepreneurs. We were open Monday to Friday when the space was available. So some of the goals are really similar to the learning series. We're building your skills. We're looking at diverse businesses. How can the diverse businesses or entrepreneurs that exist in the community as residents become a part of the economic climate of the community? And then increasing the number of sustainable women entrepreneurs. And that's kind of where we started looking at women entrepreneurs, because we know that those were the majority of people that were asking for support. But of course, we opened that up to everyone. Some of the achievements, right? We had 10 plus entrepreneurs apply, 10 that probably had a food handlers and were ready to go. We ended up with 7 who are actively selling. We've had approximately over the 3-month period, because again, you're talking about days when we cannot use the cafe area. So we've had about 30 days of sales, active sales, 3 catering opportunities, and we're seeing sales of $3,000 to $5,000 per month. I think this month was pretty good. We were not even halfway, and we were already at $4,000 in sales. And that was with only 2-3 entrepreneurs, because we know there was Ramadan. But that was okay, because we started to make sales after we were breaking the fast. So, you know, great comments. We still have to put together a final report. Certainly thinking about how can we continue for another 3 months. I think there's some things certainly that we've all learned along the way, and how do we iron out those kicks, and then kind of do a full 3 months, and then look at how do we further sustain that, what tweaks do we need to make to sustain that, you know, how can we go asking for more money. Certainly people have seen what we're doing, so I think they see the vision, so now they'll put their hands in, which is great. But, you know, these are some of the comments. I feel good when I come here and people like my food. I have met so many people, and everybody loves my empanadas. I think we know who that is. So then we walk away with a business kit. This is only maybe a part of, I think the next 3 months, if we continue, will tell us what truly should be in a business kit. But we all got health and safety training. That was really, really important. Actually, the first day we opened up, the health inspector walked in. So health and safety training, definitely need. Yeah, exactly. Where is your certificate? POS training. Yeah, we've got people who are now able to train other people on the POS. Access to the commercial kitchen downstairs, access to the equipment. We've also purchased some equipment that we know folks can use, waffle maker, fryer, warmers, things that we know that people would use in a kitchen. We're going to be purchasing aprons. Everybody's going to have an apron with their logo, foam board and easel telling your story about being an entrepreneur. We find that certainly when we have those stories up, people want to read your story because, you know, many people are selling empanadas, many people are selling rice and chicken. What makes your product different, better, whatever, right? Appealing, and it's always your story, and of course, business cards. So that is a little bit about the cafe. You know, next steps would be, can we continue? So let's see, we think we have the funding to continue. So hopefully we can do that. Of course, one of the things we need to do that is kind of that backbone support, because it takes a lot to do the day-to-day, and you know, all the things that go along with that. But yeah, that's a cafe. Please, any questions you may have? I don't know the answer. Go ahead.
First of all, I just want to thank the Employment and Economic Development Working Group, the table, the leadership table, for making this opportunity available to so many potential entrepreneurs in our community. I've heard nothing but positive things about this project, and I think it's a project that we should continue to support and ensure is funded sustainably in the long term. I'm very interested in the sales that are happening at the cafe and how the entrepreneurs are individually doing, but how collectively the project is doing. So looking forward to that information when it's available in the future. But I'm wondering about capacity building, because I know we have one entrepreneur that is doing a phenomenal job promoting the business. But how are the other entrepreneurs doing when it comes to social media marketing, for example, when it comes to branding their specific business? So just some insight from those responsible supporting the entrepreneurs on what we can do as a community to better support those initiatives, but most importantly, what are the gaps that we should be aware of?
I think you asked, what are the entrepreneurs doing around social media? About that'd be personal to them. I think we would have gone through some learnings through the learning series, but every business is different. A business does not have to be on social media. A business does not even have to have a name, right? It is about, you know, what is it that I say that I am as a business, and how do I want to market that, right? Some people are able, as you walk in, hey, I'm selling da-da-da, and some people, that's not who they are, and it does not mean the product is any different. The key is, what have you learned over that time period, and how do you want to adjust to get where you'd like to get to, right? A person's business model may be, I want to make people smile. That's a valid business model. And another person's maybe, I need to make $1,000 a week. So that's what we look at. So we all went through kind of an assessment, but again, you need that backbone support and able to be able to look at that data and say, you know, do you need a mentor? If so, who's that? What type of skills or knowledge that you're looking for, and then how do we build that?
Just a quick follow-up. For example, I noticed Ines does a really good job with promotional videos on WhatsApp. I get them almost every day. I know these empanadas being sold at the Regent Park Cafe. And I'm happy that you were able to secure support through EFT's placement students. So Sarah did some social media posts for the Regent Park Cafe. And I'm wondering, did that help raise awareness about the other entrepreneurs at the Regent Park Cafe, and whether that support should be ongoing? So for example, if I was to make a request for more support from EFT and other partners, could that be dedicated to, for example, helping the entrepreneur set up a website, start selling stuff online? Is Uber or what's the other apps that Skip, are those options options, things we should explore when we have the capacity to be able to provide, local produced food in our community. Because I think that's a gap we're also trying to fill, is that we don't have a lot of local entrepreneurs selling food in our community, and we want to make that a reality.
So certainly, I think that's again for every entrepreneur. So I think we need data, right? If the data tells us we need to go Facebook splash, that's what we do. Do we need a billboard outside of Cabbagetown? That's what we do. I mean, right? The data has to tell us something. So I think we may be getting a bit ahead of, right? Everybody's doing social media. I own a business. I hate social media. But that's one of the necessities. It depends on the business. What we're trying to do, though, is to build entrepreneurs. So individually, me as an entrepreneur, where is it that I'm trying to get to? We know you want to see us on social media and all those good things, but does that help me as an entrepreneur? Is that where my business lies, right? Those who Inez, for example, loves social media, and she's getting good at it, and that's what she's practicing. Yes, sorry, Susan.
I know it is very important to consider the social media, but consider the dynamic of our community. Not everybody speaks English.
Exactly.
We don't have Regent language. Do we speak one language that we can use that media? But what do you have that you can do for communication? How are you going to work this to be able to reach every person? Mm-hmm. That lady who knows how to cook, mm-hmm. but not fluent in talking, are you going to have one central person to inform about their work, or you are going to let everybody do it individually?
Yeah, I think that has to depend on the entrepreneur. You bring up a great point. So we were at a conference with public markets last year from all across the world, and that is one of the models that one of the countries employs, where they have one person speaking that language for the person. It's an outdoor market. So again, it depends on the entrepreneur. If the entrepreneur says, that's what I need, right? But we haven't heard anybody say that. I think everybody's very comfortable speaking about their food, and what they're very comfortable with is speaking about their journey. And that gets the conversation going, right? Oh, it's from your country. Oh, your mom. Oh, tell me more about that. That's where it lies, right? If you go to the thing market in Eaton Center, there's many foods. Which one do you choose, right? There's always something that draws you, the customer, to that food. So people are telling their stories. And if they think they need that, oh, I need you to speak for me, I think people are going to step up and say that as well. But it is a model that works. Good, it's meals time.
I know that Fatima already provided some context, but I just wanted to provide further context in terms of who we are and how we're situated. But before I do that, I just want to just say thank you also to the project sponsors for the previous project. We had amazing funders and supporters as well for that project. I want to thank Art Hubs for giving us the space, because a lot of the cost for running these things is the actual space. Square foot for cafes are huge. We got it for free. So I want to thank Art Hubs for that. So give a hands up for Art Hubs. I wanted to also thank, our other partners as well, CSI, who initially had the project and transferred the project to the Regent Park Neighborhood Association to implement it. So I want to thank Denise and CSI for helping to do that leadership and transfer community control of the project as well. So thank you, CSI. Hands up for CSI. As well, I want to self-aggrandize the Neighborhood Association for taking on the project. This was one of the few projects that the Neighborhood Association leads and led. So I want to thank the Neighborhood Association for taking that initiative. It was one of the first projects where we were writing Memorandum of Understanding for the first time, because as a neighborhood association, as a resident-led association, we were gaining that capacity on the go. So I enjoyed that experience writing that up. So thank you to the Neighborhood Association for leading the project as well. So the Neighborhood Association. Also, I want to thank the EED table. This is the most important table I've come across in the neighborhood. It's a structure, and I'm going to speak a little bit about what that structure is, but the project is a project of the table. And so the EED table, I want to thank the leadership of the EED table, Toronto Community Housing, Daniels, Tridel, and other partners like Yonge Street Mission and Dixon Hall. So thank you, all of you, for leading that work group. And also in the project, it would not have been possible without the leadership of our entrepreneurs. Inez Garcia showed remarkable leadership, showcasing that entrepreneurs could succeed in running a cafe downstairs day in and day out. One time we were chatting at 5 a.m. So the dedication and effort that she shows is remarkable. So I want to thank Inez and the other entrepreneurs as well. So thank you to them. Also H Squared, so Halima and Humera for coordinating the project with the little time that they had. So I want to thank you as well. I'm not used to thanking a lot of people, but someone once told me that you need to intentionally do that in order for a community to work. So thank you for that person who knows to remind me. All right, so for the other one, just a little bit more context. The social development plan is, when this neighborhood was being revitalized, they asked themselves, well, how are we going to do this, right? We need to create a new community. We need to create a new facilities, new buildings, new, state-of-the-art facilities like the community center. But also, we need to be able to change lives, people. It's not just about buildings, it's about also impacting people's lives. So they created what's called a social development plan. They consulted the community and asked themselves, as a community, more than buildings, what are important to you? So the community, through conversations and consultations, said 4 things are important to us. These are community building, because residents are at the heart of community. And we're going to have new types of residents. We're going to have Toronto Community Housing residents. We're going to have market residents. We want to be able to bring those 2 communities together so that they can get along and that they can build on each other strong. So the community building working group became a central theme for creating events, grassroots leadership, and informal, formal spaces so that these residents and organizations could come together to build a cohesive community. So that's the community building. There's 3 co-chairs in there, and they talk about what are the important issues that can bring us together, and they do it through events. So the second group is the safety network. So these are anyone who's interested in working on safety issues, whether it be Toronto Police, Toronto Community Housing's safety unit, or any resident who's interested in safety concerns. Can we come together and talk about the key issues? And so that's a theme that the community said is important to us. So that became another table. And likewise, 2 other tables came. The Employment and Economic Development table, the table that we were responsible for some time. And their job is, as Gail talked about, is about how do we make sure that employment and entrepreneurial opportunities exist in the community. So more jobs and more entrepreneurs. How do we do that? And that's been our mandate. And lastly, communication. There's a lot of things happening in the neighborhood. How do we make sure everybody is aware of these programs and these opportunities? I'm going to have you skip a lot of this stuff because these are more structures within the SDP that we don't have time for. But these are other committees that support the work to make sure that the whole network is funded, evaluated, and supported. So I want to touch a little bit on this. This is something I've been working on since I've been changing my role, from being seriously involved in the community to stepping a little bit back, because right now I'm currently working for Toronto Community Housing, and there's sort of conflict of interest sometimes I get involved in. So I've been thinking about what does it mean to do social development in the neighborhood? and this is sort of what I came up with, so I wanted to share a little bit with you. These are what I think are, if we want transformation, if we want community to change, these are the things I believe needs to happen. So these are things that residents need to do, these are things organizations need to do, and these are things we need to do together in order to create a more cohesive, prosperous, healthy community. So for instance, I feel if residents can do these 4 things, it's one key element of success. So what am I talking about? So the first thing that residents need is they need to be aware of the programs that are available in the neighborhood, aware of the opportunities, aware of the jobs that are in the neighborhood. So just having information is a starting point because you know where the opportunities are. So we need to know, are residents aware? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And we are improving on that as well. The second level is, are residents participating? Right? Are they coming to meetings? Are they coming to programs? That's the second question. And the more participation, the more it shows we're doing our work. And then secondly, and I think these are the 2 interesting part for me, is are residents involved in designing, implementing projects, right? Because it's not enough just to show up to a project one day. It's more important to see how projects are happening, to be involved in day in. And then lastly, are they leading in the design of projects, right? It's not enough just to be involved, but are they also leading it? So I feel if all 4 things could happen, if we have a lot of residents who are aware, some residents who participate, some residents who are involved, and then some who co-lead and lead, then I feel like the first condition is there. Residents are ready for the community, right? So that's a hard work to do to get all of that because you're not going to get a lot of people at all levels. You're going to get some here and some there. But I've always been concerned about the number of residents who are at these levels. How many residents are at the leadership and how many residents are involved? Because a community dies out if there's not enough leaders and if there's not enough residents involved. So I'm hoping today, through the co-chair elections, some of you are able to transition to being involved, to taking on some leadership roles, because that's needed as well. Anyway, the second pillar is for organizations. So organizations, I feel, in this community, there are remarkable organizations that exist, but I feel like these are the things they need to do. They need to be able to provide support through staffing, through trusteeship, and through in-kind support. A lot of times we use their space, a lot of time their staffing comes to our tables, and we need their support. There are committed organizations like Focus, like Dixon Hall, like Young Street Mission, who send their staff day in and day out to support our work, right? They don't do their own individual work, they do collaborative work, right? And that's hard because not a lot of people get grants to do collaborative work. Each person gets to do their own individual thing. So we want to be able to appreciate organizations that do that. And then the second and third are hard. If we can get organizations to do these second and third things, it's even better. It's the idea of getting organizations to collaborate with residents. And that idea is, how do we get staff to work as a partner with residents? So for instance, what I mean is, how do we co-develop a budget together, right? How do we say, hey, there's a community problem, let's work on a budget, and let's work on a plan together. How much should we give on salary? The resident is asked, what do you think it's a fair wage? So through conversations, decide together what a budget looks like. That's empowering, and I've went through several times that experience. I remember working with the Community Health Center, with Dixon Hall, with Young Street Mission, sitting together, deciding what a budget looks like. Thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's what the organizations need to do, because some organizations are not comfortable collaborating on a budget. Sometimes, how many of you have seen a budget? How many of you have designed a budget together? Right? So there's a lot of leaders here, right? Not a lot of us have those experiences. So we need organizations to sort of play ball with us, to collaborate. And then lastly, we need them to lead. Right? We need thought leadership, because not a lot of us have the experience of organizational development, right? Resident leadership. So we need thought leadership from the organization. So just to conclude this long random lecture, if we can get residents to do this, show up, be informed, have some knowledge, lead, and if we can get organizations to collaborate, right, to support us, then together, like both residents and organizations need to do this together, right? We need to come together, have meetings. I know some people hate meetings, but meetings is where the magic happens, right? And in those meetings, it has to be collaborative and it has to be productive, right? And I love the idea of action planning. There shouldn't be a meeting without talking about three things. What is the problem we're trying to solve? What are some solutions? And let's try out a solution. If those three things are not happening throughout the year, that work group is useless. Every work group needs to ask themselves, what is the problem we're trying to solve? What are some ideas and solutions? And let's prototype it. Let's try it, right? So as a group, that needs to happen yearly. And then, of course, after that's done, you need to resource it. You need to put money into what the action is. And then I believe if all these things are done, then you get whatever results that you seek. Anyway, it's been a pleasure doing this for about 4 to 5 years through the employment table. And some of the projects you've heard today came out of this process. Us residents having conversations with organizations, prototyping and testing different projects and resourcing it. So let me get into what I'm supposed to actually be doing. So this is, you've already talked about, this is the strategy we came up with for entrepreneurs, right? We sat together and developed this together. We said, entrepreneurs, what does it look like for you to succeed in Regent Park? We said, well, let's start with you learning. What does it mean to run a business? Let's have you prototype in different markets. Let's have you prototype your business in a cafe. Let's do a container market. That's coming. What do you call it? If our advocacy works. And let's also do a community commercial so that you can actually prototype your business in an affordable space. And then if you go through this journey with us, you'll be able to go to a standalone commercial market because you've done, a pathway has been built for you to be able to succeed in the normal commercial market. This is our strategy for entrepreneurs. And this is what the table is implementing as an entrepreneurial strategy. The other one is, so these are the steps I just explained. The other one is called the Workforce Integrator. So this one is our strategy for getting residents employed, right? This strategy was developed by what's called the Center for Connected Community. And the idea is, in a community, there are a lot of people who do a lot of different things. There are colleges, there are employment organizations, there are developers, there are residents. All of them are doing important things. How do we connect everybody? So in a pathway of supports so that a resident is able to, from start to finish, get a job that they need. So it starts with what's called demand-led, which is that because right now we're going through a massive revitalization, there are opportunities that are coming down the road, jobs that are coming, what you call both Daniels and Tridel are connected to a lot of job opportunities. So how do we leverage that? How do we leverage those job opportunities for residents? So we have that. We have developers and we have connections to job opportunities. Second is we also have residents, the supply side, residents who are interested, right? They want jobs. Also, we have a network, the table itself, the EED table, who can bring the two sides, those who are looking for jobs and those who want jobs, so that the network brings everybody together so that the two are connected. So that's the project that we created. We had a pilot for about 6 months trying to see if we can make this work. And in that pilot, it wasn't long, it was 6 months. We were testing all three elements. We were testing, do we have enough supply? Do we have enough jobs? Do we have enough residents? Do we have enough coordination to pull that off? And in that pilot, some of the results are, we had a lot of workshops and coaching sessions. 79 residents came up and said, we're interested in having jobs, right? We're looking for job opportunities in the neighborhood. So right now we're working with those 79 to be able to triage in terms of the jobs that they need. Do they need development jobs? Do they need administrative jobs? What type of, so we're doing a triage. We're working with them to figure out where the pathway they want to lead. Also, there are about 6 partners involved in the project who are collaborating to make this happen. And then lastly, good news, Metcalf had informed us that we've received funding for a second year. So we've received, thank you, we've received about $90,000 to run our second year, which will showcase that our model is working. And the idea here is, through this year, if we showcase that this is working, we can leverage future dollars to make this work. So that's the long end of a long story, and I'm hoping that the future co-chairs will continue this practice of residents leading and collaborating with organizations. And I've had a remarkable time working with organizations like Tridel and Daniel, who've made working as a resident very exciting. And I'm hoping that the new co-chair will have that same excitement as well. Thank you. Yeah, questions?
Yes, I have a question. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. It was a fantastic presentation, and it was a really informative session. But I would like to ask you, one of the points that you have mentioned, it was regarding the awareness of the community. What type of channeling you have to create those awareness? How you reach out to the community really?
Yeah, so that's one of the big themes on conversations we have. How do we make sure that almost everyone in the neighborhood is aware of these opportunities? So we've prototyped some solutions. The first one is we created a community app. The communications table created a community app in which any resident is able to get that app. So that's ongoing. Let's see who'd be the best person. I'm blanking out. The app's called Hello Neighbor. So download the Hello Neighbor app. Also, we have a very strong partnership with Toronto Community Housing. So Toronto Community Housing has a lot of animators. They have about 25 resident animators who do door-to-door knocking, flyering, all across the neighborhood. We're also working with the neighborhood association to make sure that the market side news gets into the market buildings as well. That has proven some challenging, but that's also a problem we're trying to solve, so that at the end we can say almost everybody knows what's going on and can participate.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a part of the presentation I'm doing, and my question is about Toronto housing. The Toronto housing, I have like people who has been living on marketing and losing job. After 6 years, they changed to the subsidized. But the people who living in the affordable, it's not going to be there. But my question is like, people has been marketing it like because they used to be afford. I don't mean like they do. I'm not like blame that, which is I'm happy for them because they are affording. They had been on the marketing, and later on they lose their job and they got subsidized. But people who doesn't have that much income, they got affordable, which is they show the income, everything, right? And then why we are not allowed to be in the subsidized? Only marketing, people who live in the marketing switched it to subsidized, but the market, the affordable is the same thing.
That's a question I have no idea. What do you call it? Either Toronto Community Housing or Tridel or Daniels could provide some context. But Toronto Community Housing is not here with us, so I'm not personally able to answer that question for you.
I was asking, I had like somewhere affordable switched is like for subsidized, but it's not true. But I went to the office today, I asked them.
Yeah.
Like, as a mother, as a woman, we are working sometimes to sometimes
Yeah.
go down. So they're supposed to like realize what we should do. If the marketing people switched it to subsidized, we are human too.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say connect with Toronto Community Housing on that one. Personally, I don't know the answer to that question, so I would encourage that. Yeah.
My name is Malik, by the way, of the Neighborhood Association. We can talk after this meeting because your concern is shared by many people living in the community. So you're not alone. Okay? Just want you to know that. So my question to the Ishmael and the previous co-chairs of the Employment and Economic Development Working Group is, what work has been done on a policy level? So one of the ideas that were shared in the past by myself and other residents is we need to get a commitment from agencies and organizations operating in Regent Park to hire locally. What doesn't make sense to me is when I get out of my house and I walk down the street on Oak Street and I see all these people with their hats on, doing construction work or they're people that don't live in this community. Or when I meet staff from various agencies, they're people that live in Oakville, Richmond Hill, live as far away from the community as you can imagine. It just doesn't make sense economically and environmentally that they have to commute all the way downtown to Regent Park when we have highly educated neighbors, people with experience that will take on these jobs. And my concern was because of gatekeeping. Are residents actually deciding who gets hired in our community, or do we have gatekeepers that prevent certain residents from being employed in their community, right? So I want to have a better sense of what work has been done on the policy level to stop this from happening, to actually implement the best practices, which is local hiring and a commitment of local hiring with hard targets, saying if we have 100 jobs, at least 20 jobs or 30 jobs should be filled by residents living in the community. So we could reverse this trend of having most of the jobs created be filled by those that don't live in Regent Park. Yes. Okay? So I'd like a response to that.
Yeah, so I think a few of us might respond to that, Waleed. So just so you know, there are commitments that exist, and throughout the revitalization, so I can speak to, from Daniel's perspective, since the beginning of phase 1 until now, in partnership with Toronto Community Housing and other organizations, there's been 580 plus jobs created for community members. So that's a really impactful thing, right? So I know we still hear from people who maybe they want an opportunity and they haven't gotten it. That's why I'm here. So those people can be connected with me. And in fact, it's part of the reason why Daniels and Tridel as well, because Tridel also has similar, I don't want to speak for Sal, but Tridel has similar requirements, and they've also had success over the last few years since they've started in Regent Park. And part of the reason why Daniels and Tridel are part of the Workforce Integrator Project is specifically to create a better ecosystem to connect job seekers with jobs better. So I want to be clear, it's happening. It's happened, it's been very successful in many, many ways. Is there always room for improvement? Absolutely. So let's work together, and that's what we're doing with the Workforce Integrator Project to make it better, to make it easier for job seekers to find opportunities, right? But it is important to note as well that, when opportunities arise, and this comes back to the point about communication, that we're finding ways to communicate those. So I can tell you that we at Daniels post jobs through the Toronto Community Housing email newsletter that goes out every Friday, and I rarely get applications for jobs through that posting. We flyer in buildings for different opportunities, and sometimes we don't get that much outreach either. So we have to figure out, I think we're interested in working with community on figuring out, okay, how do we actually reach people where they're at, right? And also create the right kinds of opportunities. So I'll talk a little bit after this about an opportunity that's coming. And it's important for all of us to share those opportunities. You talked about construction jobs, right? We've had over 80 youth living in Toronto Community Housing become a part of a construction training program and get jobs from that, right? So it is really important to note things are happening, and if you're not sure what's happening, then it's really important to reach out to either Daniels or Tridel, or really importantly, Toronto Community Housing can connect you with us and connect you with those opportunities.
I know that great work is getting done, and I appreciate it. I've met some of the youth that have got opportunities in the trades. I've met some local residents that have got those opportunities. But what I would like for us to do is focus on bringing about a transformational shift through policy commitments from large-scale employers in our community.
So there are those. So
That's what I want to hear
yeah,
about.
so yeah, I can talk about that. So there are those. So for example, when it comes to Daniels, we work with, so we ask all of our consultants, all of our trades to participate in a local labor initiative. And they do. So our consultants will share job opportunities when they arise, but we also work with our consultants to participate in programs like MTO, which is a youth employment program. So all of our consultants, and Humera here is a graduate of the MTO program, all of our consultants have taken on Regent Park students in paid summer employment to help them kickstart their careers and build their resumes as they're going into university, right? So we require them to work with us on that. Same thing with our trades. The construction program I'm going to talk about shortly, we work with our trades working on our construction sites and tell them to hire a participant locally, and they train them up, they work with them. It's a 10-week placement. Many times they keep those participants on for long-term employment. We know that it's also a challenging time in the economy, so when we're talking about jobs even now, there are fewer job postings coming through these days, and that is definitely true across the city, right? So that's another thing. We're also working with our commercial retailers too. When Cafe Zuzu opened down the street, we created a training program that, in partnership with George Brown, we had 9 people come through that program. That's a program example for where we did a lot of outreach and not a lot of applicants. We had 9 people come through that program from the community that were getting training from George Brown College and then got jobs, many of them at Cafe Zuzu. So we do that with a lot of our retailers as well. We did that with Wendy's, we did that with Tim Hortons, we did that with Shoppers, we did that with Freshco, right? So it exists. Are there ways to make it stronger? For sure. But the policy level piece exists. And I mean, Asal can go into it if she wants to, but they have a whole community benefits agreement. Policy level requirement exists. So let's make it stronger through things like the Workforce Integrator Program. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fatima. It was just part of the question. It has been answered. But I would like to know, you have told you are not receiving much of the applicants actually, despite you are distributing. But where those distribution it has been done, where it's going, who knows that it's really reachable to the community or not? You know, are you having any follow-up for that? Are you giving it door-to-door? Are you providing just, you know, for example, in the building and managerial department and just, you know, throw it on the floor that it's happening and nobody, you know, look for it? Or are you reaching directly to the community people or to the community centers? Or maybe you have any connections. For example, you are making an assignment for some of the students, as you said, you are taking from George Brown College. I said, okay, you have this responsibility to go door to door, explain to them, and then tell them these are the job applications. Because maybe people just, you know, have a look, you know, through those papers, and then maybe the pictures, and then put it aside. So I would like, you know, to know more about that.
I think the question you're asking is totally related to the Workforce Integrator Project, because we know that that's a gap. So we post jobs, you know, Daniels posts jobs through Toronto Community Housing. When Toronto Employment Social Services used to be at the community center, we used to work with them. Even then we had challenges getting outreach. You know, the Tridel team has a website that they do. I mean, Asal, you should just be up here. But I mean, anyway, it's fine. I don't mind. It's cool. They have a website where they post jobs as well. And, you know, we, at community events, people are encouraged to reach out to me. People are encouraged to reach out to Asal for the Tridel team. And maybe that's not enough. And so that's why, again, the Workforce Integrator Project, the idea is, and sorry, Ismail talked about this a little bit, but the funding that came through, the $90,000 from Metcalf Foundation to renew this project, is going to be focused on hiring someone to lead that and who can do that kind of outreach as well. So in the last round of funding, there was someone who was doing that outreach. And we got over 80 people on a list in terms of job seekers and what opportunities they were looking for. So that's why we're supporting this project, because it helps us do that better, okay?
And one more question, continuation for the trial. Of course, I saw the trial they are posting, but how you follow up with the people? Because over here, unfortunately, there is a problem of making your resume. Are you just, evaluate the person based on the resume, or really you just pick up the phone and call the person, okay, you apply for such and such, position. We would like to talk to you, even without looking at the resume, because the resume is a paper, it's not going to work for you. The person is going to work for you. And I am sure many people are really, they are in a high qualification, but maybe there is a problem in a resume. And unfortunately, if you cannot find the person and evaluate on the basis of a resume, how you get the, proper person for that job.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think there's a couple parts to that question. So when people reach out to us, we connect with them. They don't need to share a resume with us. It's not actually, people can connect to us a couple of ways. One, they just register, and then we just call them up and we have a conversation about what they're looking for. Or they apply for a job, in which case we'll follow up with them and have a conversation about what they're applying for. If they're applying for a job, they need some support with fixing up their resume, our team will help fix up their resume. But truthfully, it's going to go back to this program as well as we're only 2 people, right? And so we can't be sitting and this is a part of our job, right? It's not the only part of our job. So I don't have the capacity to write resumes for everybody. And that's why, once again, this Workforce Integrate program is really helpful, is that we're partnering with community or different employment organizations that we are triaging them to. So we'll have a conversation, they'll bring them this is so-and-so person, this is so-and-so experience they have. This community organization is going to help them with their resume. They have pre-employment programs that they can go through, because everyone's at a different stage, right? There are people who are ready for employment, and that's the easier ones, and we connect with those, and those are things. But if people need more help with their resumes or interview prep, we do that, but to a certain limit. They need to come with something for us to do that with, to help them target it or improve it. If they're coming with nothing, it's really difficult and very time consuming for us to do it. It's not that we don't do it, and I'm sure Fatima has done it in the past. I've done it in the past as well. But this program is allowing us to better utilize what we're good at. Fatima and I are good at maybe providing them with a little bit of that interview prep and knowing exactly what kind of questions are that are more targeted. We can do that. Or we can connect with our consultants and trades to get the jobs and help prepare people for those jobs. But the community employment organizations, they're the ones who are experts in resume writing. They're the ones who are experts in these other areas. They're the ones who are on the ground and connect with residents. So they're the ones who are getting people up to a level to bring them to us so that we can help for employment. Does that make sense?
So luckily, let me add a little bit. So luckily, because of this approach we're taking, it's not about one single organization doing something that they're good at. It's about all of us who are good at one thing to come together and do it together. So I remember, for example, 5 years ago, when I first, this is very odd, but my first job was, I'm a late bloomer. So when I was very much old, I wanted to apply for a job. My resume was horrendous. Someone who's within the community said, Ishmael, didn't you volunteer with that? Didn't you do this? Didn't you do that? How come that's not in here, right? So that initial interaction, that friendly face is important. That community recognition is important. And then they need to connect you with people who are skilled at that. So I remember going to Dixon Hall, where they did, I went there, employment person came, we worked on my resume. I couldn't believe that was me, that's in their resume. And then a few days later, when I got the job, I was writing my first bio, my professional bio. I still use it up to today. But that's a journey, right? That's a journey that you need to be with your employment organization, with a community outreach person, and with the employer. So the idea of the project here is that we integrate, we bring together all those elements so that outreach is there, deep outreach is there, job opportunities are there, but also the supports you need to get that job is also there. So that's the prototyping we're doing. It's not going to be perfect, but at least through the employment table, we're doing it together.
Thank you very much. I have one more question for you. Is there any time framing for those that they really require to prepare the resume and you are referring them to other agencies like Access or whatever, you are just referring them? Because I was involving in such steps. Everybody is involving, because we are coming from other countries. And the other countries and over here, making the resume, preparing for the job is absolutely different. So if there is no time frame for that, this type of organizations, normally, they keep asking really the people to keep coming back, making a resume, change it, and believe me, if you take the resume from the first access point to the second access point, they will tear it up and say, oh no, this is not the good one. You have to make another one. So what about that one? Yes, this is not the way that we have to go for it, because every person has learned to make a resume in a different way. Every agency, they have a different guideline. They tell you make it this. Believe me, I did it deliberately to 4 different type of the access employment center. Each and every one of them. I told them I made it. They said it is good, but just throw it. And I swear they throw it. They said, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that. Okay, if there is no time frame, and I am going to each and every access point, it will take years to make one resume. And who knows that resume will work consequently.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
So, yeah, so what I was saying is that, like, if there is a resume or something that comes through to us, like, we can work with you to make that resume, like, you'll give me a resume, I want to apply to, like, X, Y, and Z job. I can look at it and say, okay, this is great, I'll make those changes, we'll apply for it. I think, Fatima, you probably do a very similar thing. It's like, we reach out to our consultants, our trades, sometimes internally, like, wherever the opportunities, and be like, hey, Asal is looking for a job in administration. This is her resume. This is her background. Really, like, we advocate on our end for you as well to have an interview at the very least. We'll help you prepare you for it. What I'm saying is, though, that at the very baseline, there is like sometimes some people need a little bit more support to get that first resume or to get like some employment readiness that they don't have. And that's when we partner with the community organizations. What is the timeline from someone connecting with me and Fatima to find a job? Honestly, it varies, and it varies based on so many different things. Like if someone's ready for employment, if they're looking for something that's really niche, like something very specific, like it really varies. Sometimes it's like, you'll come, you get an interview, you get a job, it's done. Sometimes it can take months and months. Like there is no direct timeline. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, of course, but don't you think, one of these empowering the individual and helping them to get the job, it should not be emphasized on removing the resume, see the person expertise, see how they work, in what aspect really they are expert, how they can work, rather than just sending them to make a resume.
Yeah.
Finding, the employer organizations, I said, okay, I want so-and-so person, and okay, we have such a person. Go for it.
Sure.
Go for a training, yes. Side by side, directly, no resume work over here, it's a piece of a
Sure.
paper.
Yep.
And then, get the job directly.
For sure. So it's a great point. And so, for example, the program I'm going to talk about next, we do that. So in that program, we help people build their resume, but we get them a job opportunity anyway, a placement, so that then they are able to build. They've started with a resume, but it's not that they had to use to get the opportunity, okay? That they're able to get the opportunity, we connect them with the opportunity, and then they get the experience. So we understand that too. I think the reality is also some of the questions that you're asking are really about employment service agencies and how they work. And I think that we're lucky at the Workforce Integrator, and for the EED, we have a few employment service agencies, YSM and Dixon Hall, participating. And so that feedback is really helpful for us through this project to share with them, because as they're thinking about how they can support those job seekers, they'll be able to, provide a better service. But they also are required to provide certain services because they get funding from Employment Ontario. So when you go to different access points, they have a list of things that they are supposed to complete so that they can get their funding, right? And so they're doing that with you because if they don't do it, then they don't get their funding, right? So it feels repetitive to you, but to them, they have requirements that the government is, asking them to complete, okay?
But I mean, it was, specifically for your work, because
Yeah.
part of this community is seeking the job.
For sure. So we do both, right? We do both. So we will connect people directly, and sometimes the resume is important, and sometimes the resume is less important. But we still think it's valuable for them to have a resume and work on that, right? So that's something that's important. You're welcome. Yeah.
I want to make a recommendation because Elena captured my attention with what she was bringing about, which is how we be intentional in ensuring that people living in our community get jobs. It's not being about resume critique and all that stuff. That's great, but how is their follow through?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm taking away is the importance of transparency. You talked about Dixon Hall, YSM being employment sort of services supporter, so people that actually provide employment services for residents when it comes to them seeking jobs. But what I'm interested in is whether they have policies that relate to local employment for one, right? Are they locally hiring themselves? Are the projects they're trusting, are they locally hiring from Regent Park? What does that policy look like? Is it transparent? Is it out on their website? How are residents able to hold them accountable for the commitments they made to the community? And how are they able to hold them accountable to the government, which funds this important work? So I would like to get more details about that. But my recommendation is for the workforce integrator, not just be sort of like a referral point. Go to try it out, go to employment services, that's great. Yeah, but we have a lot of referral
It's not a referral
beyond
point.
that.
It's not a referral point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My recommendation is that the workforce integrator coordinator also is responsible in ensuring that there are policies that promote local hiring that are implemented. So it's systemic. So there's more opportunities created for residents in our community so they're able to be hired locally, right? And I think that's where we're missing that little gap. But looking forward to the presentation on what we're going to be focusing on.
Well, I mean, the workforce integrator project you presented.
Yeah.
So
I did present it, and I think just from the context I'm aware of, like many of the stuff that we're working on, it's prototyping, right? There's no finished solution yet. That's what it means to do community work. You identify a problem, and then as a group, we think about, well, this is what the problem is. These are what some solutions could look like. Let's prototype it. Right now, you're asking for policy, talk about priority hiring, for local people. Well, what does that look like? What are some best practices in many different places in terms of hiring? To my knowledge, what I've heard is best efforts. I've never seen guarantees. So residents are not guaranteed a job, right? They're positioned to be able to get a job. They're positioned so that among all the candidates, they would look like the most qualified, right? And they're strengthened to do that. So I think that's a conversation. I think the social development plan and through EED, that's a good conversational point. How do we make sure, and how do we evaluate? How do we evaluate that all these opportunities residents are really benefiting, right? So those are ongoing conversations, and I think as a leader of the social development plan yourself, these are conversations you can continue to have going forward and prototype it and test it and then evaluate it because I don't think we can give you the perfect answer right now, and I think you know that. My recommendation would be to continue the conversation with the new leadership as well to see how do we prototype better, how do we test better, and how do we evaluate better, so that we see those results that you're interested in.
So I'm aware that today we'll be selecting for the EED co-chair.
Trying to get there, yeah.
Trying to get there.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to know what are some of the expectations for the residents who applied for the EED co-chair? What's the job description, and what are they expected to do? What are the responsibilities?
On the poster, right? Was it on the poster? No, okay, so in terms of the co-chair role, it really is about helping steward the direction and like looking at the direction of the EED and what it's investing in terms of the initiatives and projects that are being worked on, okay? Now, for example, right now, there's those 2 projects that are being worked on, right? The cafe and also the workforce integrator. The co-chairs are not expected to project manage those projects, okay? There are already like committees that are working on overseeing those projects, but it's about making sure that the EED table is on track in terms of achieving its goals. So it has certain goals around employment, it has certain goals around entrepreneurship. Are the 2 initiatives, one each, are they achieving those goals? And once, you know, right now we're in a position where the Workforce Integrator project just received funding, right? So when that funding runs out in a year, you know, the co-chair might work on helping find new funding. So if the leadership, for example, we all worked together to write the report to request additional funding from that, right? So the time commitment, it really depends. It can, you know, be a meeting every 2 weeks, and then there might be some additional meetings related to projects sometimes, and then there's, you know, once a quarter when these meetings happen, some coordination has to be done to make that happen. So that's really what the role entails. Does that feel accurate? Yeah.
Well, it's up to each of the strengths of the leader, right? Some people are able to do that, and some people are more from the behind. It's all about your style.
Yeah.
At best, your job is just to oversee that this is the goal. Are we, in a general sense, going in that direction?
Right.
Are we having conversations with the key people? What do you call it? Is there movement? So. You can put in the minimum amount of time. You can put in a lot more time, or you can be as obsessive as I was and put in all your life into it. It depends on what you want to put in, right? But at minimum, the idea is, are we having conversations, every 2 weeks? You meet 2 hours, and you ask yourself, there's a meeting coming. Are we ready for that meeting? What are we going to talk about? Who's going to present? So that's a conversation. Another conversation is updates. Are the projects going forward? What needs to happen? What partners do we need to bring? So basically, and you get to learn too, because different leaders are at different points, and you get to lean in on your strength, right? If you're good at speaking, you become a speaker. If you're good at writing, you become the writer. So yeah. And then Gail wanted to add something.
So just one quick thing before Gail adds something. I think it's really important to note that these 2 projects that we've been talking about, it was through the leadership of the co-chairs that these projects happened, okay? So they made these projects happen from nothing. And so they worked a lot to make those projects happen, okay? Now that these 2 projects are up and running, it really is up to the co-chairs. If you're a co-chair and you come up with a whole other idea that is going to be good for employment or good for entrepreneurship, and you want to work with the EED table to make it happen, if you want to work 15 hours a week to make that happen, you're welcome to do that, right? If the leadership wants to focus on maintaining these 2 projects, because that's all the table has time for, that's actually okay too, right? At the end of the day, in terms of, you know, will you have to speak, presentations, remember that it's a community leadership role, okay? So you are expected to be a community leader, right? You are expected to have an understanding of the social development plan, be able to learn about it, speak about it, but that can come with time as well. It doesn't have to be overnight, okay? And it's a 2-year commitment typically, of course, if something were to come up and someone didn't want to or couldn't be co-chair, couldn't have capacity anymore, that's something where now we find ourselves in a situation looking for someone new in this time, right? Gail?
I would add that you are the resident voice. Yes. That is the job. You are the resident voice. So how do you bring the voices of the rest of the residents? TCHC resident and market resident. So you are the voice.
With that, I will go very quickly through the craft program because we don't have time. So I just wanted to do a quick shout out, or plug. The craft pre-apprenticeship program is a construction training program that has been running for the last 9 years. We've had over 80 TCHC residents participate in the program. It is paid training and employment. 4 weeks of paid training at the College of Carpenters in carpentry, 10 weeks of job placement on a Daniels construction site, and then everyone who completes the program is able to join the Carpenters Union and sign an apprenticeship contract with the Carpenters Union. It's a really great program. We're going to be flyering in the neighborhood in the next week. There is a info session, or like this week we're flyering in the neighborhood. Next Tuesday, Monday? Tuesday? There's an info session. 23rd, Tuesday, there's an info session that is in person at Daniel Specturm downstairs. If you want to learn more about the program, share it with folks that you know that might be interested. Okay? We're taking a total of 15 participants this year. Great, that's all I'll say on that. Okay, great. Co-chair election. So I'm really happy that we're here to talk about the co-chair election. Go to the next slide. We have 3 applicants for the TCHC resident co-chair. So just so you know, all the social development plan tables have 2 co-chairs. 2 resident co-chairs, sorry. 3 co-chairs, but 2 resident co-chairs. 1 resident co-chair is a TCHC resident co-chair. 1 is a co-chair resident living in market buildings. And then the 3rd is an agency co-chair. Okay, EED is a bit special. There's more than 1 agency co-chair because we're all here to support the program for employment. Okay, so we have 3 TCHC resident co-chair applications and in fact only 1 market resident co-chair applicant. So I'm actually going to make the announcement now that Colin Pendlebury is our market resident co-chair, which is great. Great news for him. He wasn't able to be here today. He's out of town, but he's very excited. Okay, so now we're going to have, I'm going to give maybe each of the applicants just 2 minutes, really 2 minutes though, to share about why they want to be a co-chair for the Employment Economic Development table, and then we'll do the election, okay? So Hashim, if I could ask you to come up too. Hashim Nuran is going to be our first applicant who's going to share why he wants to be a part of it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hashim Nuran. I'm a dad, I'm a community member, and I ran for school trustee in the 2022 election. I'm involved in a lot of community like activities in Sudanese community. And I have been doing volunteering job maybe 10 years. So I'm willing to continue what I have been doing. So Regent Park is my community. So I am willing to help Regent Park community members. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Elena is next. Elena, can you please share why you want to be part of the EED?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate it all. I would like to say once again, thank you that all of you are here. You are concerned about the community and what is happening. Why I would like to be a part of the community? Because community is my life. Community is the things that I grow up in. Community is the things that I believe in it. And if we are doing for our community, means actually we are living in the peace together. We are doing the things that it gives the assurity for the future of the children of the community. So the community for me is just like a fist, and this fist never can be defeated if all are together. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, and then Shazab, now for... You're still deciding if you want to be a part of the, no problem. You have about 10 seconds to decide if you want to be a co-chair because we're going to do the election now. Okay, that's fine, but you can still participate. We'll find a way to involve you. That's great.
Question. To the candidates, are you Regent Park TCC residents? I just want to make sure that's clear, because I
Yes.
think there's a qualification for me coaching.
Yeah, we did that in the application form. Great. Amazing. Yeah. Thanks, Waleed. Okay, so next, we'll go to the next slide. It's okay. No, it's okay. Don't worry. Okay, so we did it high tech today, everyone. There is, right? There is a QR code. Please scan the QR code and vote. Just a reminder that Shazeb's no longer on the list, and so just vote between the two applicants, Hashim and Elena. You can also vote. And you can only vote once. If you don't have a phone, you can come and use mine.
Yeah, you can use mine too.
Who needs a phone? Here. Let me see. I'll take a...
If someone else doesn't have a phone?
There you go.
How do you make sure you don't submit another one?
Who? I know we can't, but it's okay.
Just to let you know, both of them didn't look at.
What do you mean?
Yes. Until we announce who the winner is.
Thanks. Okay. Done. Okay, great.
Has everyone voted? Does anyone need a phone to vote?
She just did. Oh, you didn't? Come on over. There you go. There you go.
Am I able to connect with you after?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a resident as well.
Yeah.
And I started my own not-for-profit for financial literacy.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
And we got a bank sponsor.
Oh, great.
Turn a savings giving
Yeah.
$20,000 to teach the residents. So, yeah, and I've got like other business students with me, and I've got an advisory team. So, can we please connect?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I don't
perfect.
know if I have a card, but
Okay.
I can give you my email, and then we can find a time.
That'd be excellent.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, has everybody voted? Yeah, perfect. Has everybody voted? Or is anybody having trouble that they need help with? Everybody voted? We voted? We're good? Okay. Yeah. Just give me 1 second as I tabulate the results, aka open the Excel spreadsheet. Ismail, can I ask? We need an expert opinion.
Because right now, are there 18 people in here?
Yeah, I count.
some quick remarks. Why don't I invite Elena first? And then my next. Just to quickly introduce yourself.
Thank you.
The amazing Regent Park community, and any of your thoughts about being elected co-chair today?
Yeah, thank you very much. Once again, my name is Elena. I'm really, obliged, and thank you to all that you have selected me as your co-chair, today. And I am hopeful that I can do my best, for the community. And I would like, the community to really contribute to this, program, to this effort, that we make the best of the best, for all member and the individual of the community. I would like, to thank you, all of you, once again, and even congratulations, my co-chair, that we will, work together, and definitely we reach our objectives. And I would like the community bring out their problems, their challenges, their difficulties to us, that we can go and find a solution for them, to get the best, for this community. Thank you very much.
My name is Hashim Nurain again. Thank you, everyone. I'm Hashim. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be a member of coaching team, and I'm willing forward to work with everyone and to have like ground running. We are gonna work together to help everyone. Also, I recently graduated from Sheridan College in paralegal studies. Having said that, I want to say it is never too late to achieve and pursue your dream job or entrepreneurship. So everybody please, put your hand together to this community, and I promise you I will be active member of this group.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. So thank you so much for your attention and your patience. We have deliberated with the one of the SDP co-chairs that sort of oversees everything, and we have decided that there will be two TCHC resident co-chairs. So Hashim and Elena, thank you for joining and welcome. Okay? Fantastic. So I think that that's a really great outcome, and I really want to thank all of you for coming out and for being here. Okay, great. Thank you. Have a great night. Okay.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. And for more information, please visit our website.